Last class, we completed the extrinsic pathway. And in a nutshell, we understood that in the extrinsic pathway, the death signals come from the exterior of the cell. They are perceived by death receptors, and then a downstream signaling cascade starts, which culminates in the activation of the executioner caspases. And these executioner caspases, once activated, they proceed to activate enzymes that can cleave DNA, and they proceed to cleave a lot of cellular proteins, ultimately leading in fragmentation and bleeding of the apoptotic cell. Today, we are going to start with intrinsic pathway, where at the outset, we need to be very clear that the cellular signal of death is coming from the interior of the cell. Due to some sort of cellular compromise, due to some sort of mutations present in the cell, the internal microenvironment of the cell is not normal. And the cell is then requesting proteins associated with cellular survival and death to start the intrinsic pathway of cellular death. So the name intrinsic implies that the death signals are emanating from the interior of the cell. Now, last class, when we were talking about this extrinsic pathway, we understood there are a group of enzymes which are caspases, which play a pivotal role in bringing about apoptosis. If you remember last class, just to recapitulate your memory, because I'll be talking about this enzyme in the intrinsic pathway. So I'm going back to this picture once more. If you remember, we had studied the initiator caspases. And in the death pathway, we had studied this particular two initiator caspase, caspase 8 and caspase 10. We studied caspase 8. And while talking about their structure, if you see the caspase 8 initiator caspase has a DED in their prodomain region when it is inactivated. Now, when we are entering intrinsic pathway, there are also sets of caspases present in the intrinsic pathway who have a big functional role in bringing about the cellular cascade that will ultimately lead to apoptosis. Now, the initiator caspases of the intrinsic pathway are caspase 9 and caspase 2. We will talk about caspase 9 today. And when we are talking about caspase 9, you see that in the caspase 9 prodomain region, there is a small orange color domain, which is CARD or caspase recruitment domain. So today when we are going to do the intrinsic pathway, we will see caspase 9 and remember this prodomain, the CARD. Now let's move on to the intrinsic pathway. Apart from the caspases, there are a group of proteins that play a very pivotal role in controlling cellular death and cellular survival. These group of proteins are known as the BCL2 family of proteins. The BCL2 family of proteins contains approximately 20 proteins related to BCL2. These 20 proteins can be divided into 3 basic types. The first type is the BCL2 anti-apoptotic. That means anti-apoptotic means against apoptosis, favors survival. The second category of BCL2 proteins are known as pro-apoptotic effector proteins. Pro-apoptotic means favoring apoptosis. That is, they will lead to cell death. So these group of proteins will lead to death. These will lead to survival. Again, there is a third category of protein, which is also known as pro-apoptotic, but these are the regulatory population. These proteins cannot directly lead to death, But these proteins in turn activate these proteins. So these two category of protein families are associated with apoptosis. That is, they are favoring death. And the upper category, that is the anti-apoptotic, is associated with survival. So they are favoring survival. Now in a cell, these proteins are present in a defined ratio. If there are signals of cellular survival, then we see a high expression of BCL2, this group of proteins, and these group of proteins keep a check on this protein. They prevent the activation of this category of proteins. So if there is survival, once more, if there is survival, the expression of this category of protein is high, and these category of proteins then prevent or keep a check on these category of proteins, and they prevent apoptotic death. But if there is a signal for apoptosis, now if there is a signal for apoptosis, these regulatory proteins are activated from those signals. What they do, they go and inactivate this category of proteins. Look at the black arrow. So they simply move forward and inactivate these survival proteins. The moment they move forward and tend to inactivate these survival proteins, what happens? These survival proteins can now no more control this category of proteins. Hence, they are free and they can bring about death. We'll be going through those pictures once more. So this is the relation of these three category of proteins belonging to the BCL2 family. Now the question is that the proteins are not functionally similar, but they fall under the same BCL2 family. Let's look at the structure of the BCL2 family members. That was the functional aspect that I discussed. Now let's look into the structural aspects of the BCL2 family members. You can see that each BCL2 family of proteins has a domain known as the BCL2 homology domain. Now the survival members has 1, 2, 3, 4 such domain. If we look into the pro-apoptotic effector molecules, you will see that there is this BH1, BH2 and BH3 domain. And if I look into the regulatory apoptotic BH3 only protein, you see that they have this only BH3 domain. So in a nutshell, you can understand that this group of proteins can interact with this group of proteins via these domains. So this is the interaction via this domain. They can interact with each other. Similarly, BH3 is common in all the three. So if this molecules wants to interact with this category of proteins, then they will interact via their BH3 domains. So that is a synopsis about the basic structure of the BCL2 family members. As I said, once more repeating, these family are the anti-apoptotic members of favoring survival. These are the pro-apoptotic members favoring death. These are also pro-apoptotic members favoring death. The difference between these two, these members are the effector molecules that bring about death, and these are the regulatory molecules that control the effector proteins. The regulatory molecules only have the BH3 domain. Hence, these regulatory molecules are often known as the pro-apoptotic BH3 only protein. Whereas the effector proteins have 1, 2, and 3 domains. Hence, they're often known as the multi-domain BH3 protein, apoptotic proteins. Hence, they're known as the multi-domain pro-apoptotic protein. So they are known as the multi-domain pro-apoptotic protein, and they are known as the BH3 only pro-apoptotic protein. Now let us look at the examples of the different anti-apoptotic protein. So we have the BCL2W, BCLXL, BCLW, and so on. This one is very famous. So when we will be understanding the intrinsic pathway, we'll restrict our name to the BCL2 protein itself. If we look into the multi-domain pro-apoptotic protein or the effector molecules, we have BAX, BAC, and so on. We will restrict ourselves to BAX. So from the anti-apoptotic protein, I'll be explaining the intrinsic pathway via BCL2. In case of the pro-apoptotic multi-domain protein or the effector molecules, we'll be understanding the pathway through the action of BAX. And in case of the BH3 only regulatory protein, we will see the action through BID or BIM. But these are the examples of the different BH3 only BCL2 proteins which acts as regulatory molecules. So as I said, that these interactions are very important, and the BH3 only protein is usually not activated if a cell is normal. It remains inactivated, it is kept in a check, and the survival protein and the death protein balance each other. So they are kept in a defined ratio, they counteract each other. Whenever there is a death signal coming from any inside the cell, one of the BH3 molecules are activated, any one of the regulatory BH3 molecules are activated, and they now start interacting with this pro-survival or anti-apoptotic family member, that is BCL2. The moment they start acting with BCL2 and start inhibiting its function, BAX, the pro-apoptotic effector member of the BCL2 family, is free, and BAX can bring about death. So this is how the story goes. So you can see the normal cell. Remember, there is the pro-apoptotic regulatory protein, which are the BH3 only members, pro-apoptotic multi-domain protein, which are the effector molecules. Under the regulatory, I told you, remember one name. Under the regulatory, remember BID or BIM. Under the pro-apoptotic effector protein, remember the name of BAX. So let us suppose this is BAX. Under the survival of the anti-apoptotic protein, remember BCL2. And as a regulatory protein, remember BID. So let's now give names to these proteins. So there is a normal cell, and you can see BCL2 and BAX. Normal cell, the BCL2 anti-apoptotic regulatory protein and the pro-apoptotic regulatory protein. So BCL2 and either BAX or at times BID. So BID and BAX are kept in check. They are binding with each other. Whenever there is a apoptotic signal, you can see that the regulatory proteins are activated. The moment the regulatory proteins are activated, they remove the pro-survival protein from the effector BH3 members, pro-apoptotic effector BH3 members, and the pro-apoptotic effector BH3 members are free, and they can bring about apoptosis. This is almost the same story that I repeated in the previous slides. So you can see once these effector molecules are activated, as I told, remember BAX, these effector molecules can then result in formation of pores on the mitochondrial outer membrane. Now, let's understand the story a bit more, but before that, let us see let us look at the BCL2 family BH3 members. Now, the BCL2 family BH3 members, the only BH3 members are regulatory proteins, And I said that these proteins are not normally activated. They are kept in check by a number of normal physiological processes operative within the cell. Each one, BIM, BMF, BAD, and BID, these are all only BH3 pro-apoptotic proteins, but they are the only BH3 pro-apoptotic regulatory proteins. In normal condition, they are kept in check by a number of physiological phenomena. For example, BIM is kept in check by the microtubular system. BMF is kept in check by the actin cytoskeleton. BAD is kept in check by the 14-3-3 scaffold protein, that is a protein set. And BID is kept in an inactivated form. Whenever there is a apoptotic stimuli, the first thing is that these molecules are activated, because once they are activated, then only the apoptosis can move further, the stimuli can move further downstream. Now let's look on to the story once more. This is the mitochondria. And on the mitochondria, we have the effector BCL2 family proteins sitting. So they are the BACs. The BACs molecules are located on the mitochondrial membrane, on the outer mitochondrial membrane. In presence of any apoptotic stimuli, there is no apoptotic stimuli, these molecules are kept in check by the BCL2 survival protein families. So they are kept inhibited by the anti-apoptotic BCL2 family members, in this case, the BCL2 protein itself. Thus, there is no problem. The cell is undergoing a normal cellular survival pathway. But the moment there is an apoptotic stimuli, you can see the BCL2 is inactivated. That is, the anti-apoptotic member is inactivated. And the moment the anti-apoptotic member is inactivated, inhibition over this BACS is removed. And you can see that BACS is now forming oligomers, small complexes on the outer mitochondrial membrane, as a result of which pores of mitochondrial membrane permeability is compromised. Pores are formed on the mitochondrial membrane, and molecules from the mitochondrial matrix is coming out into the cytoplasm. So in a way, mitochondria is compromised. So once we understood, now the question is that if mitochondria is compromised, how come caspases are activated? I said that for apoptosis to be successful, we need to cleave the DNA. Now, the story till now, as we have studied, we have understood that there is this BCL2 family of proteins, which have three members, survival member, apoptotic regulatory member, and an apoptotic effector member. Whenever there is no apoptotic stimuli, the survival family member inhibits the apoptotic effector member. But the moment there is an apoptotic stimuli, the survival members are blocked by the regulatory apoptotic proteins, and the effector proteins are free. They form oligomers on the surface of mitochondria, and the molecules from within the mitochondria are liberated into the cytoplasm. So this is the story we have learned till now. The question automatically arises that if this is the story, and if only the molecules from the mitochondria is leaked into the cytoplasm, how come the caspases are activated? Because remember, for DNA cleavage, we need to activate caspase 3, which is a common caspase for extrinsic pathway also, and for intrinsic pathway also, because that is one of the main executioner caspase. So what happens? Now we studied here till the fact that molecules from the mitochondrial matrix are leaked out into the cytoplasm. And one such protein that is really leaked into the cytoplasm through these membranes is an intermembrane protein, which is cytochrome C. You might have heard about cytochrome C while you did electron transport chain. So cytochrome C is located in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So whenever there is an outer membrane remember that mitochondria is a double membrane organelle. So Bax has formed pores on the outer membrane of the mitochondria. There is still the inner membrane of the mitochondria where cytochrome C is present. So whenever there are pores formed on the outer membrane of the mitochondria, what happens is that the cytochrome C proteins are released from the inner membrane of the mitochondria and they come out into the cytoplasm. So as these molecules move out into the cytoplasm, what happens? Let's see now. So the cytochrome C has come out into the cytoplasm. Simultaneously, another molecule, important molecule is present in the cytoplasm, which is known as APAF. APAF means apoptotic protease activating factor 1. The full form of APAF is apoptotic protease activating factor 1. This is present in an inactivated state. And in APAF, if you look at the structure, there is a blue block you can see. This blue block of APAF is nothing but CARD, caspase recruitment domain. The similar structure that we observed in the pro-domain of caspase 9. So whenever cytochrome C goes and binds with APAF, you can see that there is a molecular transition in the structure of APAF and its CARD domain, which was not exposed till then, is exposed. And now you can see that 7 monomers, you can see now the formation that in presence of cytochrome C, another molecule is also required, and in the presence of ATP, the APAF1 is now, the individual monomers are now oligomerizing, they are forming a cyclical structures, which is around 700 to 1400 kilodalton. So they are forming this cylindrical ring complex known as the apoptosome. In the apoptosome, if you see, all these blue card domains have been arranged centrally. So there is this central card domains and usually 7 monomers, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 monomers of APAF join to form a wheel-like structure with the card domain located at the center. This is the apoptosome. And once this apoptosome is formed, now the initiator caspase 9 is recruited via its card domain to this card domain of the apoptosome. And within this card domain of the apoptosome, we see the activation of caspase 9, where caspase 9 is procaspase 9 is cleaved to produce the active caspase 9 tetramer. Once the active caspase 9 tetramer is formed, active caspase 9 then proceeds to cleave caspase 3, resulting in active caspase 3. Now, just to inform you, there are some books which says this to be the apoptosome, while there are some books which says that apoptosome formation occurs when procaspase 9 is recruited to this complex. Now, this particular structure is from Bruce Alberts. This figure that I'm showing you is from Bruce Alberts, and we will restrict our knowledge to the fact that this is the apoptosomal complex. So just once more repeating on what I have told till now, cytochrome C leaked out as we saw. Meanwhile, in the cytoplasm, there is this structure, molecule present, apoptotic protease activating factor 1, which is inactivated, which kept in inactivated state. The moment cytochrome C leaks out, it can bind with APAF, and with the help of DATP, it activates APAF monomers. Their card domain is exposed. The monomers oligomerizes to form a 7-spoke wheel-like structure with their central card domain. This is the apoptosome. In this apoptosome, the procaspase 9 is recruited via their card domain. Within this apoptosome, the procaspase 9 is catalytically cleaved to produce active caspase 9. The active caspase 9 then further moves down to cleave procaspase 3 to active caspase 3. So that is in nutshell the intrinsic pathway. Now, this is a picture that is related to c-MYC. This is a cell signaling molecule. So c-MYC can result in proliferation apoptosis, and times c-MYC has been seen to result in proliferation and cell survival. So this particular MYC protein, I'm talking about this MYC because in cancer, we'll see that a mutation in this MYC results in a form of an aberration. So MYC and related signals not only drive the cell into cell cycle, but can also sensitize the cell to apoptosis. In results, in the absence of any survival signal, MYC induces the cell to go for apoptosis. In the presence of survival signals as growth, such as growth factors, high expression of the BCL2 survival members, the survival signals block apoptosis and favors proliferation. So when we are talking about the intrinsic cellular death, one thing we must realize that the BCL2 proteins at the microenvironment level control the decision between cellular survival and cell death. High expression of the BCL2 survival protein favors cell for survival, but somehow if the expression of the BCL2 protein falls, then it is assumed that somehow the cell is opting for death, and the BH3 only regulatory members are activated and cellular death is brought about. As we understood, once the effector apoptotic protein members are activated, the outer mitochondrial membrane permeability is compromised, cytochrome C leaks out, it activates a PAF oligomerizes to form the apoptosome, it recruits procaspase 9 and cleaves procaspase 9 to active caspase 9, active caspase 9 then leaves procaspase 3 to active caspase 3. So this is the intrinsic pathway as discussed. We have this BCL2 and BAX kept in a ratio. Whenever there is a apoptotic signal, BAX increases, BAX outer mitochondrial membrane co-compromised. We see leakage of cytochrome C, APAF1, activation, apoptosome, activation of caspase 9, activation of caspase 3. Now let's relate it, apoptosis, to another important protein which you have already studied in cell cycle, that is P53. While doing cell cycle, I had said that P53 is often called as a guardian of the genome because P53, on detecting the amount of cellular damage that is present, can induce arrest or induce cellular death. That is possible because P53 is a transcriptional activator of not only proteins that induce cell cycle arrest, but also of proteins that induce apoptosis. And since you have understood the names of certain apoptotic protein, one of the important effector apoptotic protein in the intrinsic pathway is BAX, because as we saw, BAX can oligomerize on the outer mitochondrial membrane and create pores on the outer mitochondrial membrane, causing the leak of cytochrome C from the inner membrane to the outside. P53 is an activator of BAX. So if there is a cellular damage, and if P53 can sense that the damage is grave enough, P53 will automatically induce the activation or the expression of the BAX gene. So BAX proteins will be synthesized more. The moment BAX protein synthesis increases, understand the ratio. The BCL2 protein synthesis is not occurring, but the expression of BAX protein is occurring in the cell. So the ratio of BAX, the ratio of the BCL2 protein is in favor of BAX. That means the signal from that the cell is trying to say is that you go for death. So even though the regulatory proteins might not have been activated, high expression of BAX induced by P53 leads the cell directly to apoptosis, because high expression of BAX means BAX will form pores on the mitochondrial membrane, and cytochrome C will be made. Apart from activating BAX, P53 can also activate some regulatory BH3 proteins such as NOXA and PUMA. And if P53 is capable of activating these regulatory BH3 proteins, they will automatically go and make the survival protein BCL2 non-functional. BAX is again free to compromise the mitochondria. Now summarizing the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway, we studied the extrinsic pathway and then we studied the intrinsic pathway. To be clear, whenever the extrinsic pathway is operative, usually what happens, signals from the extrinsic pathway move towards the intrinsic pathway. The extrinsic pathway is not always enough to induce apoptosis. So whenever this extrinsic pathway is operative, it is understood that the cell will now die. So signals move from the extrinsic pathway to the intrinsic pathway, and the molecules of the intrinsic pathway are also involved. Once a signaling molecule that play a link between the extrinsic pathway and the intrinsic pathway is the BID himself. BID is a BH3 protein, and if you remember, BH3 is a regulatory pro-apoptotic protein. In normal condition, BID is kept in an inactivated form in the cytoplasm. Whenever there is this successful binding of the receptor and the ligand, fast receptor binds, recruitment of the fast adapter proteins, recruitment of the procaspase 8 to form the death-inducing signaling signaling complex. And within this death-inducing signaling complex, what we know procaspase 8 is cleaved to produce active caspase 8. The moment active caspase 8 is formed, active caspase 8 proceeds to cleave procaspase 3. On one hand, it also proceeds to activate BID. As you can see, it cleaves BID. The moment it cleaves BID, the truncated BID is activated. The truncated BID goes and binds to BCL2. So the inhibitory action of BCL2 on BAX is lost. BAX is now free. The moment BAX is free, the mitochondrial outer membrane permeabilization is compromised. Cytochrome C leaks out, combines with APAF1 in an ATP-dependent manner. Procaspase 9 is recruited, converts to active caspase 9. Active caspase 9 can then cleave caspase 3. So we see a high amount of caspase 3 expression, both from the extrinsic pathway and as well as from the intrinsic pathway. So BID acts as a signaling connection between the extrinsic pathway and the intrinsic pathway. And if you look into, this is the various type of molecular cascades involved. You can see one, fast ligand receptor binding, extrinsic pathway started. Extrinsic pathway starts its own cascade of caspases, initiator caspases, executioner caspases, apoptosis. But just now, as I said, signals from the extrinsic pathway may move towards the intrinsic pathway through BID. Caspase 8 can cleave BID to produce the activated truncated BID. And truncated BID, then what it does, it goes and combines with the anti-apoptotic members of the BCL2 family. The pro-apoptotic members are free. The moment the pro-apoptotic members are free, we know the story now. The mitochondrial outer membrane permeabilization is lost, cytochrome C comes out. In another path, you can see the growth hormones, growth factors, cellular signaling cascade is operative. If this survival cascade is operative, BCL2 expression is stable. Cell is favoring survival. However, if there is stress, you can see P53 is activated. It results in activation of a number of genes which favors apoptosis, and it results in the activation of the pro-apoptotic proteins. and brings about the apoptosis via the intrinsic pathway. So this is a complex network. I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the network that's operative within the cell. And cell survival and cell death are intricately related. There is a fine balance between survival and death, specifically when it is the intrinsic pathway. This balance is maintained by the members of the BCL2 family. I'm not going to explain this. I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the number of proteins that are involved while maintaining an apoptotic circuit. You can see this is the mitochondria. These are the death receptors. I'm just giving you showing you the molecules which we have seen. So, and with this, we come to the end of our intrinsic pathway.